Evolutionary podcast coming your way, supplement edition. This is episode 3 of our supplement run. And today we're going to be talking about HCGenerate, how to use in your PCT. And the good news about HCGenerate, HCGenerate, is that it was out of stock for a lot of 2022 and early 2023, first half of 2023. Got back in stock in summer of 2023. So you've been able to enjoy it. And if you're listening to this podcast before June 10 of 2023, it's still not back in stock, but it should be back in stock in mid-June of 2023. So if you're listening to it after, this is a great podcast to learn about this amazing product. So, there's a lot of confusion out there about HCGenerate versus HCGenerate. We're going to talk about that, why the name change. Bottom line, it's the most popular, best-selling natural testosterone booster on the market. Got a 99% customer rebuy rate. So out of 100 customers that buy it, 99 of them come back. The stuff works really well. The ingredients are really good, and Mobster is going to get into why the ingredients are so much better than other products. It's been around for 15 years. And the person who came up with the formula, he was a hardcore gym rat. And he came up with the formula exclusively for N2BM. And he wanted to put something together that would help him not only in the gym, but also in the bedroom, and also help him recover during his post-cycle therapy. So this product is not just good for on cycle, between cycles, solo, but especially it's really, really important to run it during post-cycle therapy. So we're going to get into all this on this podcast. And look, we're going to show you why it's so much better than just going to your vitamin shop or going online and buying just some generic and crappy testosterone booster. Because look, at the bottom line is, the way they do this false advertising, I'll bring in Mobster to explain this more, is really, really annoying. Basically, what they'll do is they'll show a guy on social media. He drives a Lambo. It's always a Lamborghini. I don't know what it is. Like, can you prove your dick is any smaller? I mean, just by, driving around a Lamborghini online, can you just prove it? Obviously. And they'll rent a Lamborghini for the day, drive it around, take pictures, and then they'll get a couple hookers to be in their Lamborghini with them and drive around and take pictures. And then they got them in the jacuzzi. It's the same shtick over and over. It's been done for years and years. They started doing this shit back in the 90s when they would have late night infomercials. They'll have some loser, who hired a bunch of babes and has a nice car selling a fucking book, and trying to get you. That's what they do with these testosterone boosters, Mobster. They try to sell you a dream with these testosterone boosters. And at the end of the day, those testosterone boosters that they're selling, it's just like a few ingredients. It's like a tenth of the ingredients each of what HCGenerate is. So it's like, it doesn't do anything. You might as well just freaking burn your money. And they want to charge all this money for something that's basically useless. So you can buy these ingredients on your own, and you get more and more of a benefit than that. So this is why this person put this formula together, because he wanted, instead of you going and spending $500-$600 on each individual ingredient at the proper dose. For example, Fedosia needs to be dosed at a certain amount to get benefits. Okay, you can't be dosing per dose of Fedosia at 100 milligrams a day and think that you're going to get any benefits in bodybuilding or for pre-CT. It's just not going to work that way. It's got to be dosed properly. It's got to be dosed at 1,000 or more, and it's got to be stacked with other stuff to get the benefits. So this is what this guy decided to do. He wanted to put together a formula that actually works, that wasn't just marketed with a bunch of babes and a Lambo and then trying to convince people to buy it. He wanted to market it based on actual real world results with these herbals and these vitamins and these minerals that have been around for hundreds of years, and we've been using these for our libido, for more muscle, for less fat, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what he wanted to do. So it's not a gimmicky product. That's why I like it so much. It's a product with actual real ingredients. And that's basically what they're spending their money on, is sourcing these ingredients, not spending their money on a Lamborghini, not spending their money on women, not spending their money on a jacuzzi, okay, and renting out a big house for the day, okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about two things here, guys. One is marketing, and how it's this kind of marketing that Steve's talking about has been around a very, very long time. So let me make one thing clear when I talk about the marketing. When it comes to HCGenerate, you've got to say to yourself, what is the customer feedback? Have we used it? Have Steve and I used it? And the answer is yes. Do we notice an effect when we use it? And the answer is yes, right? So but we're doing this podcast, right? So don't just take Steve and I's word for it. Go on the forums and ask guys. And I mean specifically say to them, have you used it? Do you notice a difference in how you feel? That's number one. So that's super, super important. Number two, history of marketing. Let me give you a couple of examples here, Steve. Bodybuilders have been used to promote supplements for a very long time. Steve knows, and I've mentioned this in a couple of podcasts, I'm a big time study on the history of physical culture. And that goes way, way, way back to when we just did shit to be healthy, never mind being super strong or freaky looking, but healthy, gymnastics, acrobatics, the whole thing. From like the late 1800s. I've got books here on the history of the iron game that are 1900 onwards, so 123 years old. And bodybuilders from Sandow onwards have been used to promote products. I'm also thinking here, Steve, as an example, pre-social media, a certain very well-known company that's making a little bit of a comeback in the magazines and online used to get bodybuilders to wear white coats and have stethoscopes around their neck and pens in their pocket. And the kitchen that they were in would be made up to look like a lab while they were shaking up their shake or drinking their pre-workout or whatever. Why did they do this? This is actually from the 1950s, 1960s, Steve, where a couple of big name supplement shops at that time actually employed people with stethoscopes and white coats to be down the front and to give you the appearance that they were doctors when they thought they wasn't, to the point actually that the local authorities had them stop it. And it was this idea again that you're talking to a medically trained doctor who's going to recommend a supplement for you. It's bullshit. The same bullshit as the Lamborghini, the same bullshit as the bodybuilder with a couple of girls in bikinis hanging off his arm saying this, this, and this. Horseshit. He's on DMP, he's on this, he's on that. He's on the same steroids that Steve and I have used. What he might not be doing is actually using a product. And I would want to see it as a given. And then you've got bodybuilders that get sent stuff for free. Hell, I've been sent stuff for free. But 9 times out of 10, Steve, I've used it. But a lot of bodybuilders will get sent stuff for free because it's in their contracts and then go off to another company and buy their product. And you hear about this stuff all the time. So the whole marketing thing is kind of annoying. So here's what you got to know. And this shouldn't be whether they're really good at marketing. You've got to know that the product is sound. That is super, super important. So my second point, and when we're talking about the ingredients, guys, I want you to make a note of this. So ingredients, and I've used this example before, so if Tribulus is a great example, and Tribulus is in this product. So you could buy the leaf, but you could buy the fruit or the leaf, or you could buy quality leaves, or you could buy the ash, literally the dried up parts of the leaf that have gone to the bottom of the bag. There was a quality all the way across from the absolute best, highest quality from the right part of the world to low grade, poor quality from the wrong part of the world. And that was just on the leaf. When we talk about other ingredients, we're going to talk about what's called standardized extract. What does that mean? It means that the active part, the actual part of the plant or ingredient needs to have a quality, if you want to call it that is standardized. As an example, guys, in CBD oils, you can buy anything from, I believe it was low as 10%, but typically 20% to 40%. And trust me, the difference between those two, and there are grades in between, is enormous. It really is, from not noticing an effect, but perhaps seeing some benefit to definitely notice an effect and definitely seeing a benefit. So this is, like I said, the difference between the leaf or the stem or the fruit of a plant and the standardization. This is super, super important. It really, really is. And we make sure that we mention these when we're talking about the ingredients. And again, I say this on other podcasts like that we're doing today here, Steve. Go away and do your own research. And I say that not to be unkind and make you guys get off and do the work when we're supposed to be doing the work for you. It's to prove what we're saying. So if we mention an ingredient and we say it's standardized within 45%, we want you to go away and make sure that that specific ingredient is supposed to be set at that particular level. One more point that Steve just reminded me of, right, the name change. For those of you that have been around Need to Build Muscle and know about HCGenerate, it used to be called HCGenerate. And this is because of the way that the product was being put out for users to use. The problem was, of course, lo and behold, the HCGenerate wanted to be able to sell this via a credit card because it's not a medication, it's not a steroid, it's not a SARM, it's not a performance enhancing drug, it is a supplement, but the name was causing problems with the companies that do the credit card, the banking issue, etc., etc., etc. So basically, long story short, it's exactly the same product. You can go back and compare the ingredients of when it used to be that product to this. It's the same product. It's just a name change, and it was just so that credit card processing for you, for the customer, could be done with no problems. If you're familiar with the name as it used to be, it's the same product, guys, 100%. Let's get into the ingredients. And like I said, we're going to touch upon the standardization and what part that ingredient comes from, if it's from a fruit, if it's a seed, if it's a leaf, and so on and so forth, Steve.
So look, any supplement that you buy, it's very important to check what's in it, check the dosing. If you don't know how to check what's in it and check the dosing, that's what supplement companies love, because they love to rip people off. So there's so many testosterone boosters. I literally went on Amazon on the pre-show and I looked up the top 10 selling testosterone boosters on there. All of them are heavily marketed. They're pushed by pro bodybuilders. They're pushed by social media influencers. That makes them the top 10 selling, right? Does that make them the best ones? Of course not. They're just marketed and they're hyped. And I looked at what's in them. And can you believe it? I wouldn't recommend any of these to my clients. Okay, so complete crap. And they're selling them for like way more than it costs to produce them. So you're getting ripped off when you buy them. Okay, it's just basically all marketing hype. All right, it's like buying a BMW. BMW is a shitty ass car today. 10, 15 years ago, it was really, really a good car. But today, it's just crap. You drive it off the lot, it's going to be worth $10,000 less. After like 3-4 years, the thing starts falling apart. It's a piece of junk. Well, it's the same thing with these. But BMW has been marketed for years in movies, and you've had rappers pushing these cars. But basically, it's just crap. And people know that who've actually driven them. So it's the same thing here. You're basically being marketed crap. So always look at the ingredients and see what's in them. And you'll notice that with HCGenerate, it's got the most quality ingredients you will find, and the dosing is freaking fantastic. So let's start off with that. It has a 30-day serving supply. Each serving is 5 capsules that are very easy to take. And you basically take 5 capsules a day, and we'll tell you the dosing later on in the podcast. But each of the servings contains, we'll start off with Fedosia agrestis, 1,000 milligrams. So you're getting 1,000 milligrams a day if you take 5 caps. And Fedosia has been around hundreds of years. Our ancestors knew about it. What do you think they used for their body? Like to get them as an aphrodisiac, to help with libido. Okay, to help with muscle building. This is the stuff they used to use back then. And it has a lot of benefits in post-cycle therapy, a lot. For one, it's going to help your testicles get back. It's going to help enlarge them. You'll notice on Fedosia after 4 or 5 days, your testicles start growing if they've been shrunken from a steroid cycle. You're going to notice your libido stays strong. During post-cycle therapy, Mobster, how many times do guys come on the forum and they complain, my libido crashed during PCT? And then you find out that they're just running Clomid and they're just running Lovadex. Well, if you're just running those have side effects of lowering your libido further on top of the libido crash that you're going to experience on cycle. So during PCT, it's very important to use a strong testosterone booster like HCGenerate that has a strong amount of Fedosia to help with that. It's going to help balance out that drop of libido and push it back out. So instead of crashing during PCT, you'll just level off. Are you going to have as much libido in PCT as you did on cycle? Of course not. You on cycle, you're running 5-10 times the amount of hormones that you normally produce. So of course you're going to have sky high libido. But in PCT, it's just not it's not realistic. But we can control it where you don't crash and you still have libido and you still have the motivation. A lot of guys too, Mobster, how many times do they run cycles and then they just quit on the gym? Because on PCT, they feel like crap. They're like, you know what? I quit working out. I just don't have the motivation. Fedosia is going to help push you to have the motivation. It's going to cause your testosterone levels to naturally balance out and not crash and help them go back up so that they're not, are they going to be as high as they were on cycle? Again, no, that's not the idea here in PCT. The idea in PCT is to get your own body producing testosterone, and Fedosia will help that naturally without suppressing you further and without delaying recovery. So it's very, very important to use Fedosia. Fedosia is the #1 ingredient for that reason, but Fedosia works much better when stacked with other supplements, and that's part of the whole ingredient profile of this product. So we're going to get into that. Mobster, what are your thoughts so far on Fedosia?
So, as I was saying at the beginning, guys, where is a Fedosia? This is specifically coming from the stem of the plant. This is super important, guys. It's quick 101 on vegetables and fruits. It's one of those things sometimes that we eat certain fruits and vegetables. Celery is the stem. Tomato is the fruit. Potatoes are the root. And here, the active ingredient, where the part of the plant that you want to eat is the stem. So that's super, super important. Steve talks about PCT, and for me, a product HCGenerate would be a must in PCT. However, as Steve and I talked about in the pre-show, and Steve pointed this out in the forums multiple times, a lot of guys use a product like HCGenerate on cycle. And one of the things that Steve just touched upon was plumping the balls, right? So it's super common, and I kind of laugh when guys don't know that it's super common, because you really should know your shit before you use any performance-enhancing drug, is that your balls aren't working because they're being suppressed. That's normal, and therefore testicular shrinkage is kind of normal. Now, a couple of you got listeners, and I mean a couple, thank Christ, will be on the forum saying that the girlfriend, I got hooked up the other night, and and they said something about the size of my balls. Get rid of them bitches, because they're just evil. Anyone who's looking at your balls and laughing is evil, or it's majorly self-conscious. I know my balls are going to shrink. I've always been lucky that they never shrunk down to the fucking size of razors, but some guys obsess over this. I would expect some testicular shrinkage. Here, the Fedosia is helping prevent that. It's not completely so we're going to stop it, but it's making sure that, as some guys like to describe, and hell, Steve, if there's that bad, I would be worried. And again, it's dose dependent, guys. If you're actually doing thousands of milligrams a week, perhaps, you've only got yourself to blame. However, that said, some will use HCGenerate on cycle because the Fedosia is helping prevent too much testicular shrinkage. So that's super, super, super important. Otherwise, guys, like I said, 1,000 milligram dosage with the active ingredient from the stem. And this is just the first ingredient, Steve. So, guys, go away, check. What does Fedosia do? Where should the active ingredient come from? And what's the dosage? On that, Steve, very, very quickly, and just as a side point, guys, something that I've touched upon in other podcasts is what's called the effective dosage. And Steve made the referral earlier on when he said about going to certain places and checking out particular products. An example very quickly that I've done before, Steve, was a glucosamine sulfate, and I can buy locally from a very well-known chain here in the United Kingdom and in America. GNC would be the obvious one. We've also got a company called Holland and Barrett's that produce their own brand as well as other brands of glucosamine sulfate. But typically the dosage is 300 milligrams a day. The effective dose, the one that worked in studies, is 1,500 milligrams a day. So why would I want to use a fraction of that amount? So look at what's called the effective dose here, guys. And what you're looking at here with HCGenerate is the effective dose of these ingredients. And again, 1,000 milligrams per serving of Fedosia. That's the sort of stuff that we're looking for. Those are the kind of doses that we want to have. Let's get to the next one, Steve, with you.
Yeah, so next one's a very important one too, as part of the ingredient. Really, all of these are. So next one, fenugreek extract, 1,000 milligrams. So this one is great to take before bedroom activities. So if you're in PCT, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's normal for your libido to take a step back. You're going from running 5 to 10 times the amount of hormones you normally do. Obviously, it's going to make you more pronounced effects in the bedroom. So the more pronounced effects you get in the bedroom on cycle, the more of a boomerang effect you'll have off. So we want to prevent that boomerang effect. So this is a great one to use. So if you don't want to have to worry about ED issues, which is a huge epidemic in America, I don't know if it's the same way in your side of the pond, Mobster, but in America, we have a obesity problem. And the more out of shape you are, the more increase of erectile dysfunction you'll have. So that's the problem.
Steve, I was going to joke and say we're all stallions, but trust me, obesity is an issue over here. And like Steve says,
yeah,
the fatter you are, the more out of shape you are, the more unhealthy you are, the much more likely you are to have issues. Back to you, Steve.
Yeah, because it's blood flow. And you know, when you have blood flow issues, obviously blood is not getting to that particular body part. And so fenugreek is going to help. Obviously, you want to make sure, I would hope you're not in bad shape when you're running a cycle and then doing a PCT in the first place. And if you are, then you need to just stop using steroids until you get into good shape. That's you know, that doesn't take a genius to figure out. But even if you are in good shape, it can happen. And sometimes when we run anabolic steroids on cycle, especially, we gain a lot of weight. And we gain a lot of, it doesn't have to necessarily be water weight. It can be muscle, you know, it can be size. And look, mass is mass. When you gain a lot of mass in a short amount of time, it will strain your heart health. So fenugreek extract works really good, not just with the libido aspect, not just with the erectile dysfunction aspect, but also with your heart health. So it's a great option in PCT to get your heart health improved. And it's a great option on cycle too. This is why this formula works great, not just off cycle, but on cycle, because on cycle, it's actually going to help your blood pressure. It's going to help your cholesterol and everything else in your lipid health overall. So this is one of the reasons is the fenugreek that they added here. So Mobster, I love fenugreek, 1,000 milligrams per serving. So you're going to get that per day. I love this supplement. I love that they added it to this product.
I definitely, Steve, and this is something you would see in a lot of similar products. But again, guys, make sure that you look out for what I'm about to tell you. Standardized to a minimum, mind you guys, that the least amount, 50% are saponins, and it comes from the seed. So this could actually be completely dependent on the source, more potent than 50%. The company that's provided them with the ingredient is guaranteed a minimum of the active part of the plant as being 50%. So like I said, Steve, that other companies, I would love our listeners to compare products and say, listen, this one doesn't even mention the standardization, Steve. It doesn't tell you what part of it's coming from. There's, honestly, that could make it pointless. Seriously, it could literally, here's a great trick for you guys. And I actually had to do this both in America and in the United Kingdom when it came to reading labels. I'm going to use, as a very quick example, Steve, protein powders, right? So you can have a blend. And if you've got the proprietary blends, the classic one is, Steve, if you've got a product with a proprietary blend, and especially with the testosterone booster like HCGenerate, bin it. because I want to know what's in it. So in the United Kingdom, the first ingredient should be the main ingredient. In other words, if I've got protein powder, my first ingredient should be protein powder. It shouldn't be flavoring, it shouldn't be sweetener, it shouldn't be coloring, it shouldn't be anything else, it shouldn't be any kind of preservative, it should be the protein powder. If it's a blend and it says it's whey and milk, for example, then the first ingredient should be whey. It shouldn't be milk. It should be whey and milk. Whey first, milk second. Now that could be really close. It could be 51%, 49%. I want to know how this stuff works. So you need to know these things, guys. You need to be able to read labels. And the label here is on point, Steve. Each ingredient tells you how much per serving. Each ingredient tells you what the effective part of the ingredient is, where it's come from, if it's plant-based. And each ingredient, where it's appropriate, is telling you whether or not it's standardized. There's some other stuff here. So guys, like I said, if you'll pick up a testosterone booster and it doesn't tell you what the ingredient does, which is if it's got a proprietary way of telling you on the label, if there's no standardization, if it's not telling you where part of the plant comes from, bin it. Do not use. Definitely come over to Need to Build Muscle to look at this product, because that's the kind of stuff that I want. But yeah, fenugreek extract, Steve. And again, that's something else as well, guys. Make sure when it's appropriate, because we've got 3 here on the list, that it's an extract. And again, so that means that's what have they done? An extract is a kind of concentrated version. So again, for example, I could take a whole plant, in the case of Tribulus, and I could sell you the leaf, I could sell you the root, I could sell you the stem. What's the point? Because it needs to come from the fruit. It needs to be from this part. It needs to be from that part. And again, here in the case of fenugreek, it's from the seed. So it's super, super important where it comes from, what form it's in, whether it's an extracted form, whether it's standardized. And here, fenugreek extract standardized, so minimum 50% from the seed. That's exactly what we're looking for. If your product, the one that you're using right now, the one you've gone to GNC for, doesn't have that kind of information, doesn't tell you, bin it off. Come over to Need to Build Muscle and check out HCGenerate for the exact same reasons I'm just giving you. That's what you should have with all kind of supplements that you do. This is the knowledge that's going to enable you to read labels and understand exactly what it's getting. It'll end up making you supplement expert listeners, because that's exactly the kind of listeners that we want, and that's exactly the kind of buyers, customers that Need to Build Muscle want when it comes to these kind of products. Back to you again, Steve.
So we do the next one. Next one's a really interesting one. Then I'll let Mobster talk about the one after that a little bit. But 3,4-Devinol, 500 milligrams. Now, this one I want to kind of explain, because a lot of people don't really understand this concept. And when we say that this product and this supplement itself actually helps your steroids work better, and they also help your PCT work better, a lot of people are very skeptical. Let me explain how this happens. So 3,4-Devinol, it's a great supplement. It binds to sex hormone binding globulin, SHBG, in the body. So that will make a couple things happen in the body. Now, we have basically bound and unbound testosterone. We have free testosterone and total testosterone. So if you go get blood work done, you can actually ask for free testosterone or pay more for it. And the number will come up differently than total testosterone. Usually it's about a tenth of where your total testosterone is. So let's say your testosterone levels, total testosterone levels are at 500. Your free testosterone, this is nanograms per deciliter, your free testosterone will come in at 50. Okay, so, and I've seen blood work where people have normal total testosterone and they have low free testosterone. And then their doctors are kind of confused, and their doctors are like, well, you know, your total testosterone is good, but your free testosterone is low. So something is wrong here. And this is the reason why, because your SHBG in your body is too elevated. So instead of putting you on TRT or putting you on testosterone to get your free testosterone up, which would work, you can actually take this supplement, which will actually cause that free testosterone ratio to total testosterone to go up. And so you'd go from having normal total testosterone and low free testosterone to having normal free testosterone or even high free testosterone. So that's good. So that means that you have more hormones in your body, and that's going to give you more of an effect to help you build more muscle, lose more fat, boost your libido, and all that good stuff. So when you add this to the product, this will not only, if you're taking it on cycle, it will not only improve the amount of effect that your steroids are having, but it will also during PCT improve the effect of your testosterone levels and that are trying to rebound during your PCT and during your recovery phase. So it will help your free testosterone rise. So even if your total testosterone isn't quite there yet, your free testosterone will be. So you'll feel like, wow, even though my free total testosterone hasn't go back to baseline where it was before cycle, I still feel better. I have more libido. I have better, I'm not losing muscle like I normally would. And that's the beauty of 3,4-dimenol. This is why it's an important addition to this product. And 500 milligrams of serving is an ample amount to help with that. So really, it's a must-have in this formula, and I'm glad they have it. So, Mobster, if you want to touch on that a little bit, and then talk about Tribulus, because I know you're a big fan of Tribulus.
Oh yeah, Tribulus from back in the day. Let's talk about this. Standardized to a minimum of 95% from stinging nettle extracts. Stinging, guys, Steve knows I'm a kind of guy who gets out every day. We got some local scenery by me, and ponds and forests and trees and plants, and I'm taking pictures of nature all the time, so I get my daily steps in. On my desk right now, Steve, is 3 books that talk about plants and insects and butterflies and birds here in the United Kingdom. Stinging nettle was super, super common over here. And it's not very nice, actually. It's a bit of a weed. And it's a bitch if you fucking accidentally touch it, because it does what it says on the label. It stings. It bloody annoys you. So it's about 15 to 20 minutes for the pain to go away. It's kind of uncomfortable. However, equally, I know guys that boil this up into tea. And this is the thing, guys. Some of these ingredients have come from all over the world. I mean, I think it's specifically the Tribulus, which we're going to talk about momentarily. And as Steve said, you looked at, when scientists and explorers went to these different countries, they looked at why have this in them? They're only eating this nut, or they're only eating this fruit, but their teeth are amazing. Their skin's really, really good. You know, and it's quite often, Steve, these explorers have been on a ship. They're trying not to get scurvy. They've traveled halfway around the world and they're starving fucking hungry. They've landed on this island just looking for fresh water, and they've come across a coconut. They come across the bread plant. So you looked at why people were using, for example, the stinging nettle. What was they using it for? And as I say, healthy tea. We've done it here in the UK. You can buy this, I believe, in tea form. But what the standardization takes that part of the tea, the ingredient, the way it was being used as a poultice, for example, just to put on the surface of the skin to treat skin conditions. And what was the part of the plant that was causing this positive effect? And so, for example, the stinging nettle extract is one of those things that's helping, as Steve said, literally boosting the effect of the cycle that you're on. And here's the thing, Steve, and I'll make a claim that perhaps the company will not. And I say that, guys, if your free testosterone increases both on cycle as a result of you using performance enhancing drugs, but also as obviously intended off cycle, you will feel better. I'll say that because quite simply, and I know that just from my personal use of this product, Steve could say the same, and other users could say the same. So what happens sometimes, and this is very true just of testosterone in general, and how people can have certain sense of feeling. And I'll use this analogy, try to explain myself properly. Right. So sometimes a person can have exactly the same numbers in a test for free and bound testosterone, and yet individual A will feel perfectly fine on the same level as individual B, who feels like dog shit on that level. And this is the reason why you'll see different amounts used on cycle. You'll see different people's perception. There's an age-related issue. As I get older, my testosterone level should fall compared to a younger person. The fact that I train and work out and hold muscle should increase it, and so on and so forth. So there's a bunch of variables. But the bottom line is, guys, I know people that have used this product, myself included, where we feel better in PCT because we use an HCGenerate. Let me go on to Tribulus here, Steve. Right, this was probably right up there as el numero uno ingredient, especially when I first came into the game. So there was a product, Live 52, something like that, I believe it was called, Steve, that we all took back in the day. And the ingredient that was included in that was, I think, tribulus. Tribulus, and I'll try to say the second name, Teristus. Tribulus, we all say tribulus, it's a lot easier. 500 milligram, the extract form, and again, standardized to a minimum of 45%, and this is from the fruit. Now, tribulus, like I said, super thing. Back in the day, part of the El Numero liver protector that we were all taking at that time. And we get into what I said before, which is what happened. I believe, Steve, I think I'm going to say Poland or Eastern Europe, and there was a sports university, something like that. I'm trying to remember from back in the day now. I actually read up on this at the time, and they were doing exactly what we're doing here. They were looking at herbs, they were looking at ingredients, and they were saying, right, so we've tried these different stuff. We can't. They were worried about the IOC test. There was all that stuff going on. I think it was late 70s, early 80s. And so they were trying to look for natural ways of boosting testosterone that would pass the test. And so they got a bunch of products, tribulus, sent to them, and it was all the different parts of the plant, Steve. And there was even stuff like when the plant was grown, the soil that it was grown in, when the crop was taken up out of the ground and sent over. And they said the variables were all over the place. And then what happened is a bunch of supplement companies went absolutely crazy. They heard of these tests, and the initial tests were great. People's testosterone levels were going up. That they were able to they were seeing specific sporting advantages. They took people and they tested them in the lab. They literally did sports tests on them. And if they had the good stuff, they were seeing great results. But then they got the next batch in, and it was a poor batch. It come from another place in the world. And I'm talking about by the ton at this point, Steve. And it had little to any active ingredient. It had been taken out of the ground at the wrong time of year. And then it got even worse. Companies started getting hold of tribulus, like I said, where it wasn't the fruit, it was the leaf. And it wasn't good leaves, it was crap. Literally, the high grade stuff would sit at the top of the bag, and they were getting good results from the high grade, and the bottom of the bag was ash. And it got to the point where this is how bad it got, Steve. Some companies were literally buying the lowest grade leaf that they possibly could. Literally, the dried up bits of leaf that go to the bottom of a sack. Perfectly normal, but with little to no active ingredient whatsoever. But you could write on the label that you had tribulus in your products, and people would buy it because there was tribulus in the product. So there's like a history lesson for you guys. You really don't want that. You want to know exactly what it does. So what does it do? It boosts male hormones by making the pituitary glands function again. This is a great one to use post-cycle when your testosterone is crashing after using steroids. Again, normal guys. It will help spike libido, another one, and vitality during this rough patch. And like I said, what does that mean? So when you're on cycle, I've always had a little bit of a kick, Steve, when I'm on cycle. I have a little bit of a boost in my libido. I'm kind of fairly constant. It's never been great, unless I'm with a new woman, it never goes absolutely crazy, but I get a little bit of a boost on cycle and a little bit of a drop off post cycle. So for me, that's never been too much of an issue. But for some guys, they notice the difference. They go from crazy, wanting to bang the front door, to nothing. And that is a major, major head fuck. So the idea that you can have something that helps you with that is super, super important. On to the next one, Steve. Tongat alley root extract. And again, guys, make sure that you get the right kind of extract. I'll let you know this is 100-to-1 ratio. It's one of our favorite and most underrated ingredients in the formula because it helps boost Leydig cells health, which means more fertility, greater semen load, and a rise in sexual performance. I will, to put it crudely, guys, semen load is the volume that you produce when you come. And you can go, to put it crudely here, Steve, some guys go from a teaspoon, which is perfectly normal, and come shooting out to a dribble. And if that ain't a head fuck, nothing is. So this is the one was, especially you younger guys, and you use the feel in a certain particular way. It also helps prevent testicular shrinkage, and you'll boost your performance in the gym because you have a sense of rising energy and a stimulus to your muscle growth. On to you, Steve.
I swear, you Europeans are so crude, you know, when it comes to stuff like this, you know.
Oh,
We're
just plain and
more
simple,
prudes
plain and
now.
simple.
All All right, so the next three we're going to talk about, these are very important. Now, these are ingredients that really make everything work good. So I'm going to go over them. Boron citrate, 100 milligrams. Look, at the end of the day, it's going to help with energy, brain, bones, organ health across the board. And it's going to work to help everything else work better in this. And it's going to help to make everything work in synergy. So without this ingredient, the formula would take a step back. So this is a really good one that they added. Very, very smart decision to add this one. And it also helps the other ingredients work better when it comes to boosting your testosterone levels and preventing that hormone crash that you get in PCT. So you'll get a much softer landing when you add boron to your cycle. Yep. And then the next one we're talking about, vitamin E, 30 IUs. Now, vitamin E is fantastic. We actually have studies on fertility that actually show that vitamin E helped male fertility. So if you're not getting enough vitamin E, which many of you aren't because of poor diets, really, you know, we don't eat enough of our green veggies, and that's where you get vitamin E from. So vitamin E, it's a great antioxidant. It boosts your overall health. You need it for muscle repair and recovery. If you don't have it, it can literally be the block that prevents you from getting more muscle. So it's going to help with that. During PCT, how many times do people complain, oh, I'm losing my muscle, I'm losing my muscle? Now, will you lose some muscle in PCT? It's possible. It's more than possible, especially if you put on a lot during cycle. Obviously, you're not going to be able to keep everything. You're going from having a lot of hormones to not having any hormones. And then your PCT, you got to recover immediately. So vitamin E is going to help prevent a lot of muscle loss. So it's very, very important addition to this cycle for that reason, besides the fertility effects, but also keeping your muscle. The last ingredient, zinc, 7 milligrams. So zinc, just like vitamin E, if you don't have zinc in your body, you're not getting zinc from your diet, you're not getting zinc because your body's not absorbing it properly, you're not going to be able to produce testosterone. Pure and simple. And this is why the best testosterone boosters have zinc as an addition. And if you find a testosterone booster that doesn't have zinc, it ain't worth a damn, because you need zinc. Zinc-rich foods are so important. And even if you try to get a lot of foods with zinc, because of our soils being so depleted of minerals, it's just not going to be there. So supplementing it with zinc along with these other ingredients are very important, because zinc boosts chemical reactions that regulate hormones and help us build muscle. So it's an absolute must on with any testosterone boosting product, and it's an absolute must in PCT, because without it, you're just not going to produce. So talk about that, Mobster, and we're going to talk about.
Sorry, I just want to jump in here. So it's super, super important for muscle building, guys. And it affects all your rich muscle building foods. And I was thinking specifically of beef here, guys, would be rich with zinc. Here's another one for you. It's actually a trick I did with buddies back in the day, Steve. How important is zinc when it comes to your sexual activities? And especially when we're talking about a testosterone booster like HCGenerate. So here's what I did, right? You take a standardized amount of extract that most people are going to get on a daily basis, and let's say it's 3 milligrams as a pill, right? And I was telling a bunch of buddies that I was working with at the time, if you overdose, in other words, you take way more than a recommended daily dosage, just for a couple of days, I mean for a couple of days, guys, your production, and I put it like Steve said earlier and crudely earlier on, the amount of volume of semen that you produce will temporarily be boosted. So they were all standing there, because I wasn't putting it crudely. I had to explain myself crudely. So I said, listen, do what I tell you for the next 48 hours. This will be Thursday and Friday. And on Saturday nights, if you get lucky, you and the young lady in question will be incredibly surprised. So that's how much of an effect zinc can have. And again, it's just a temporary thing, guys. Your body soon works out that it doesn't need twice or triple the volume of zinc that you would normally take as a supplement. And it will obviously, there's like a sort of a safety valve, if you like, Steve, because it'd be crazy producing a lot of fluid all the time. It really would. But that's how much of an effect it can have. And it's super, super important just in the muscle building process. Something that we need to touch on, Steve, guys, people ask, so what do we say at the beginning? We said that the serving size is 5 capsules, but sometimes people have taken a lot more performance enhancing drugs than normal. Sometimes they're taking less, like myself. So there's a little bit of leeway in there. Also, talking about timing, I'll let Steve jump back in here to talk about the timing, when the best time to take it for the gym, the best time to take it for sex, and obviously if there's any variation in the serving amounts, and of course whether women can use it. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Males and females can use this. We always talk about females. This would be a great option if you're a female or you have a wife, girlfriend who use anabolic steroids, because women are different. Women produce these hormones through their ovaries, not through their testicles like men. So with women, their PCT should be a little different. And this is a really good one for women to use in PCT because, again, it's going to help them keep their muscle and it's going to boost their libido and it's going to prevent a crash for them too, even though it's not a hormonal crash like with men, but they can definitely crash and lose a lot of their muscle. But both men and women, look, you can definitely use it. But look, during cycle, we recommend you use it at least the final 4 to 8 weeks at 5 caps a day, split dosage. So, but you can run it throughout. And then post cycle, what we really want to focus this podcast on, very, very important to run it, along with your SERM therapy, the Nolvadex, the Clomid, and it really helps to offset the negative side effects of those SERMs during your PCT. So 2 caps, 2 to 3 times per day, so 5 caps total. And that's the best way to do it. If it's hard for you to dose it twice a day like that, you can always just run the 5 caps all at once. Okay, that's going to be better than missing a dose. And then look, at the end of the day, you can run it off cycle. You can use it standalone as well. It's going to have all those benefits we talked about. You could do 4 to 5 caps per day, split dosage that way. And then if you want to use it before bedroom activities, 5 capsules, 1 to 2 hours beforehand. It's going to help with erection, libido, and all that good stuff that comes with your bedroom activity. So it's a really good option. With that's a natural route. A lot of people, they're like, well, let me just use Cialis, let me just Viagra and use Viagra. But those drugs actually can cause a lot of health complications. I'm not a fan of those dick drugs at all. They can cause sleepiness. They can cause your heartbeat to fluctuate. They can cause a lot of issues that you may not need. And what happens is when you use those drugs over time, they become less and less effective. So you may find yourself after a year or two using those dick drugs, they're no longer working like before, and you have to keep jacking up the dose and jacking up the dose. We've seen a lot of people complain about that. So, and they can become habit forming where you can't even get it up anymore without a dick drug. And you don't want to be one of those people, because what happens in a situation where you're out one day, you're in a grocery shop and you hit it off with someone and she invites you over, what are you going to do? You'd be like, hey, you know what? I can't go over to your place. I got to go back home and get my dick drug. You don't want to be in that situation. So this product is natural. It's not going to be habit forming. You're not going to need it every time you have sex, but it's going to be it's going to give you a nice boost when you have it available to you, especially during PCT. So it's a must use. But if you're using it on a daily basis as a normal supplement, you won't have to worry about that because it's already going to be in your system. So, but if you want an extra boost, you can take it 1 to 2 hours before, and that will give you a nice extra boost for you. So, yeah, go ahead, Mobster.
I mean, guys, what are we talking about here? Steve's talked about multiple podcasts, the importance of a proper PCT and the difference between crashing and what he calls a soft landing. And that's super, super important, right? So you need your body to recover. So what this HCGenerate, especially when we're talking about PCT, all about, it's helping you recover from the simple fact that you were using performance enhancing drugs on cycle to create this absolutely crazy situation your body wasn't able to do with that. You were taking way more testosterone than your body produces, and obviously that's going to have an effect. It's going to have, to put it in simple terms, it's going to have an effect on your endocrine system where you're not either not producing or you're producing very, very little testosterone of your own. So we use a product like HCGenerate in our PCT to help get things going again. But more than anything else, I think, Steve, it's the health. And that's what people don't understand. That wasn't something Steve touched upon earlier on. Any product, and I'm talking about performance enhancing drugs or HCGenerate, will work better if we're leaner. So when Steve said earlier on, get in shape and watch your obesity levels, he was correct. So for HCGenerate to work its magic even more than it might do if you're out of shape, get into shape, guys. Tweak, and I've touched on this in my tips, Fred, on one of the forums. Tweak your diet to help you maintain the muscle that you gained on cycle. The same thing applies to your strength. The same thing applies to your fitness. These are all super, super important. What happens a lot of the time, guys, and this is another reason why some of you will struggle, is that you go absolutely on point crazy on cycle. Your training's amazing. Your diet's amazing. You go to sleep, you're getting all your sleep because you don't want to waste the money that you spent on your performance enhancing drugs and you want the best results. And some of you come absolutely amazing. Even if you just gain 5 pounds, what happens off cycle is you don't do a proper PCT. You don't use a product like HCGenerate. Your diet goes to shit. Your motivation goes out the window, like Steve touched on earlier on. And some of that's affected simply by the fact that your testosterone levels are off. And because your health's not on point, because you've let your diet slip, etc., you lose way more of your gains. In fact, sometimes you lose all your gains. So we don't want that to happen. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be vigorous, both in the gym and out. We want your diets to be good as much of the time as possible. We want your other activities that keep you healthy, get your training on point as much as possible. Then HCGenerate, especially when we're talking about a PCT, comes in and works the most magic it possibly can to produce the best results and to make that landing as soft as possible, literally so that your testicular size comes back as quickly as possible. The volume, as we touched upon earlier on, the semen is on point. How you feel off cycle and how you feel in between cycles, not just in recovery, but before you think of doing another cycle again in the future. And again, it's going to help you make your gains capable. And as I said, the number one thing there, again, and this applies to me as an older person when I'm doing this podcast versus the majority of our listeners, Steve, who tend to be in the 18 to 25 up to maybe 30 years of age range. It's as simple as this. The older you get, the more issues you're going to have. And I'm talking about right across, whether it's health stuff, whether it's blood lipids, whether it's testicular shrinkage, whether it's just like the classic one, which I mentioned earlier on, guys. It's quite simply, the older you get, the lower your testosterone levels are. Now, if I keep in shape, they're better. If I train hard, they're better. If my diet's on point, they're better. And if I use a product like HCGenerate, it's going to be better. Talk about PCT and what it's there for, Steve, and how really more than anything else, HCGenerate helps with that recovery during PCT before we finish off.
Yeah, and we touched on it a few times in this podcast. If you don't get your PCT right, you can expect to lose all your gains. You can expect to lose all your sex drive. You can expect to lose all your motivation to even go work out. And we see this all the time with people. People are like, you know what, screw this. I'm done with PCT. I'm just going to stay on year round. And that has health detriment. So it's very important, to hit these cycles hard and then come off. You don't just want to stay on year round. It's not good for your health. It will reduce your life expectancy. So the key with PCT is doing it right. And it's very important to run a strong testosterone booster. You're not going to find a better one for this price that actually has the right ingredients and the proper synergy and the proper dosing across the board. That was designed by a bodybuilder for bodybuilders who use anabolic steroids like this one. This is a hardcore testosterone booster. It's not some shitty testosterone booster you get from Walmart for 15 or 20 bucks. All right. That's going to do absolutely nothing for you. Nothing. Look at the ingredients. It's going to be nothing. You want to keep in mind too, that the United States FDA doesn't have enough of a budget to go around testing these supplements. So these supplement makers, they'll spike these products. They'll They'll do all kinds of things. They'll lie about what's in the products. They'll lie about the dosing and all kinds of stuff. So you'll take the products and some weird things can happen to you. And you're going to be like, what the hell is going on here? I feel weird on this stuff. Or you'll take it and you'll be like, I'm not getting any results. And that gives all testosterone boosters a bad name. So you can trust Need to Build Muscle. They've been around for 15 years. They have a long history with customers. And believe me, this stuff being out of stock for a year due to the Need to Build Muscle transition that they were going through, having out of stock and all this stuff, having to bring it back. The ingredients were very hard to find. A lot of people were very, very upset during that year. But now it's coming back, it's back, and you definitely want to take advantage of it because at the end of the day, like I said, I cannot recommend any other testosterone booster. There's just not one that can compare to this one. It is simply the best one out there.
All natural, healthy. And guys, be sure to check out where to buy it from. needtobuildmuscle.com, Amazon, and I believe they've got an eBay store as well. Guys, like I said earlier on, be sure to check out the ingredients, check out the source, check out whether they're standardized, check out whether they're extract, check out the amount of standardization. Do your own research to confirm to yourself what we've told you in this podcast. See what we said is exactly on point. Then hold that up against other products that make claims. I have seen other forums coming up with stuff about this, that, and the other, Steve. But again, I would want each ingredient held up in comparison. Feedback is amazing. And Steve, when you said about people waiting for it to come back, I've been waiting for it to come back. Trust me, guys. If there's a recommendation for you there with a Mobster stamp of approval, is I've used this product during the cycle, but especially with my PCTs in the past. I've been waiting for it to come back in the stock because for no other reason, I feel good. I feel better sometimes, Steve, off PEDs. I do performance enhancing drugs for a reason, but I want to feel healthy when I come off. And I definitely feel healthy when I'm using HCGenerate during my PCT. Please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It's our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. A podcast for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.